Goals grow businesses. And a business not growing is stagnant or regressing. And that's a bad thing. We're going to talk about it today on the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Again, this week, it's Saturday. We're in the office, putting that extra work in, hustling and grinding to make it something great of ourselves or our pursuit of success. Because the next big thing is not happening Monday through Friday. It is not 9 to 5. You got to do that extra work, put in that extra time in order to be the next big thing. And in order to have a successful business, you have to start the very beginning. The very basic idea behind your business has to then have goals. You have to set goals for your business. Big, hairy, audacious goals. You got to set them high, but they do have to be something that is measurable and understandable and potentially attainable. Not easily attainable, but potentially attainable, but easy for you to understand, to organize, and to measure so that you can see if you're progressing as you should. Many people think setting a goal that there's only one objective, which is to reach the goal. And that's the ultimate objective, but not the only objective. Moving towards your goals, achieving things that get you closer to your goal, moving you in the right direction, being successful in aspects that lead you to your goal are the things you need for your business to be successful. This is why we set our goals so big. This is why we set them so high. This is why we make them hard to obtain, because the ultimate outcome of reaching that goal is secondary to the actions you take in order to attempt to reach that goal. That's why we set our goals so high, but it's also why we start with our goals, because it gives the ultimate direction that we want to move the company. When we get further down into the process, which I'll explain to you in a minute, it can sometimes be hard to understand what actions need to be taken, what needs to be prioritized, how you do things in what order, budget, time, money, etc. But if you can set the proper goals to begin with, you can be informed as to what it is you're ultimately trying to achieve. So if you have a new business, if it's a startup, if it's something you haven't launched yet, your early goals are easy. First sales. A good number is $10,000. The first $10,000 in sales is a good starting place. Now, where did that number come from? That number came from a venture capitalist who once told me, if you have your first $10,000 in sales, we can start to have a conversation. Until you have that first $10,000 that you can achieve on your own, don't try to reach out to other people for funding, outside people that is. So I think it's a good number, the first $10,000 in sales. And honestly, if you can't reach $10,000 in sales, you may not have a business. Even if it's a side hustle or something extra that you do, it may not be a business. It may be a hobby that makes a little bit of money. And that's a different conversation. And I'm not faulting you for it. And it's not a problem. But if this is a business, if this is your serious pursuit, if this is something that's going to replace your day job, it's going to become your career, this is going to become the breadwinner for you, you have to be able to achieve the first $10,000 in sales. That's a great goal for beginning businesses. Achieving those sales, establishing relationships, building a brand, etc. Achieving $10,000 in sales as a goal is something that is measurable and obtainable. Even if you've never sold anything before and $10,000 seems like a lot of money, it is something that can be obtainable. And if you can't obtain that goal, if that goal is too lofty, then the business that you're trying to start is probably not a good idea. But if you have an existing business, goals can be things like increasing sales by a percentage or by a number. Increase sales by $10,000 this year. Increase sales by 20%. Increase sales by 50%. Increase market share. Increase number of clients. Increase markets that you're available in. Increase the SKUs that you have in your inventory. Increase opportunity by something measurable, by a percentage, by a number, by a date, by a time, the number of employees, the number of partners, the number of retail outlets, etc. These are all things that are big, round numbers you could set at the beginning of the year and then achieve or measure the achievement throughout the year. So you set your goals, something that moves the company in the right direction, making more sales, having more partners, more ability to do business in some way, big, hairy, audacious goals that are measurable. Then you have to organize those goals. How will you start to achieve those goals? This is the organizational step. You start organizing your goals by breaking them into subsets called objectives. Once you set your goals, you now need to make smaller examples of those goals, subsets that are objectives. So, if your goal is to achieve $10,000 in sales, then your objectives now need to be achieving $2,500 in sales per quarter. 4 quarters in the year, $2,500 each, that equals $10,000. Now it's something measurable and trackable and a little bit more obtainable than the $10,000 in sales. If your goal is to double sales next year, same thing. Break it down into the biggest parts and then smaller parts. Biggest parts being quarters or half year into quarter, and then into monthly and then into weekly conversations. If you think about doubling sales next year on a weekly level, what did I do this week to achieve doubling sales? You can get too caught up in ebb and flow and seasonal sales and things that come with businesses, the peaks and valleys that come with business. You can be very depressed when things are down, and you can overestimate when things are high. But if you can take the big goal, doubling sales, break it into half year, quarter, monthly, down to weekly, now you need to be doing 10% per week or 2% per week, or achieving additional sales per week, or doing better week after week after week, so that your month is better than last month, so that your cumulative months add to better quarters, so that you at some point you can understand if you're moving in the right direction or not, if you are able to achieve the goals, and if you're not achieving the goals, how far off are you from achieving them? If you're moving in the wrong direction, that means you're missing objectives, which means you're missing goals. If you're missing goals, you're not growing your business. Businesses must grow. If your business isn't growing, it is stagnant. It's sitting still. It's doing the same thing. It's not achieving anything new. It's stagnant. We all know what happens to water when it becomes stagnant. It goes bad. Your business should work on the same philosophy. Needs to be growing at all times. It needs to be moving in better directions. It needs to be achieving more. It doesn't always equate to achieving more sales, more income, more profitability. It can be more opportunities, more collaboration, more partners, more employees, things of that nature, but it always has to be growing. Always grow your business. You can't grow your business if you can't come close to your goals, and you are not coming close to your goals if you're missing your objectives. Your objectives now have been broken down into subsets so that you don't have to panic if you miss today's sales or this week's sales number or whatever metrics that you're using to decide if you're meeting objectives to meet your goals. But you also can't go 16 or 32 or 52 weeks of missing those objectives and still expect to reach goals or be moving towards reaching the goals in a direction that grows your business. So you're doing two things simultaneously. You're looking at the big picture. You're looking at the overall achievement and how you potentially grow your business, how you make your business successful through your goals, and then subsets, objectives that can be broken down, organized, measured, and understood in order to know if you're moving in the right direction, if you're achieving what's necessary in order to ultimately come close to or achieve those goals. Now, once you have set your goals, once you have organized how you're going to achieve them, or at least how you're going to measure them and guide if you're moving in the right direction or not, it is time to execute. Execution is where you become strategic and then tactical. Strategy lays out the roadmap as to how you're going to achieve the objectives that support the goals, and tactics are how you actually do it. Strategy is based on who you are, what you bring to the table, what you bring to the conversation, what your value proposition is, who your audience is, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, your value proposition, your position in the industry. All of these things add up to the strategy, which in total is organizing your efforts, your time, your energy, your budget, money and otherwise, in order to best potentially achieve your objectives that support your goals. That's the point of strategy. That is the beginning of execution. But again, now that you have a strategy in place that supports objectives, those objectives support goals, you have to execute. You have to do the thing. That is when you become tactical. That's where you execute tactics. This is where you decide to use social media, to use your website, to use email blasts, to use traditional marketing, to use events, to use influencers, to do promotions, to improve customer service, to improve the product itself, to lower your price. All of these things are execution. All these things are tactics that can create the outcomes best suited for you to reach your objectives that then allow you to potentially reach your goals, which ultimately is how you grow your business. So you've set your goals, you've organized how to obtain them. You are in the execution phase because you've established a strategy. Talked plenty of times on this podcast and my business podcast, Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast, about strategy all the time. If you do not understand the steps of strategy, go check one of them out. I explain it in great detail. Also on my business website, thegoldengroup.com. Lots of explanation of strategy there. The point being today, goals, objectives, strategy, and then tactics, your tactical execution, and then measurement. Strategy and tactics are irrelevant if you're not measuring them. Tactics are day-to-day operations, their execution on a sort of street level, boots on the ground, if you will. Sometimes you can see movement and you can see while things are going well. Sometimes you have to take a step back and look at your objectives, weekly, monthly, quarterly, etc. Sometimes you have to take a big picture and look at the goals. You'll be doing all these things at the same time, but all of these things have to be measurable. You have to understand if you're moving in the right direction, if you're growing the business, if you are moving towards your objectives, which then move you toward your goals. If you're not achieving objectives, don't panic in the first week, but do start to be concerning in the first month, the second month, and the third month. And as you round off the first quarter, you should be seeing movement in the right direction. If you're not seeing movement in the right direction, your strategy or your tactics are wrong. If you're not growing, if you're stagnant, or if you're regressing, you need to change your execution. That execution could be the wrong strategy or the wrong tactics. It's up to you as you execute to find out which one needs to be adjusted and which one needs to be changed, and the things that are working that need to be left alone. It gets more complicated at that point, but you can't ever get to that point. You can't make decisions on how to execute. You can't make decisions on what your strategy should be, and you can't understand the tactical execution and then be able to measure it if you have not set goals and then organized it through objectives. Set goals, organize through objectives, execute your strategy and tactical execution, measure continually, make adjustments, small changes, adjustments, continually trying to make things better. The things that are working, you do more of. The things that are not working, you do less of, until you find the balance of things that move you in the right direction, that are achievable, measurable, and sustainable. If you can do all of those things by making your adjustments, by not panicking on daily or weekly numbers, but do understand at some point you do have to move those numbers towards your objectives, which moves you towards your goals, then you are in the process of growing your business. Your business is growing, you're on the right path, you're on the right track, you are achieving success. All of this should give you insight, feedback from the real world, more important than your opinions, but feedback from the real world. What works, what doesn't, what to do more of, what to do less of, where to spend your money, where to spend your time, where to spend your efforts, where to change your strategy and where to stick with your strategy, how to do more or different tactics in order to make the outcomes necessary to achieve the goals because you're measuring and adjusting. Now, simply repeat the process. It's easy to repeat the process. It's easy to set new goals at the beginning of the year. The calendar is a great way to start off the year. Just like New Year's resolutions, you could set goals for your business at the beginning of the year. But you do not have to wait to the beginning of the year. Anytime you start your business can be the first day of your business, which can be the first day of measuring. Again, weekly, monthly, quarterlies, half years, and years are easy to understand, also easy to break into segments, halves, quarters, etc., to get you to a point where you can understand goals, big pictures, you can break that into objectives which are obtainable, and then create a strategy and tactical execution on a regular basis so that you can then measure your immediate outcomes, successes and failures, your intermediate, and your big picture measurements. So set goals, organize through objectives, craft a strategy for execution via your tactics, measure, adjust, and repeat. These are the basic steps of how to run a business, how to run an organization, how to achieve things in the right way that move you in the right direction so that even if you don't reach those ultimate goals, you're growing your business, you're improving your processes, you're doing things in the right way that ultimately lead you to the potential for success. Thank you guys for listening again this week. Stream, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, share with a friend. I would appreciate it very much. Make sure you can follow and engage us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the Saturday Morning Hustle Facebook page too. Also check out the bonus series, Balance series, 24 episodes on all of your favorite podcast platforms and at SaturdayMorningHustle.com. Speaking of SaturdayMorningHustle.com, that's where you can get your swag too. Saturday Morning Hustle, Entrepreneur AF, and Coffee and Donuts swag, all there for you as well. Every past episode, the bonus content, all of it. SaturdayMorningHustle.com. See you next week.